Hi, this is Tim. Well, got another little project I want to put together. Got my mash tun here. We've seen it before. I've got a recirculating arm here on the top, ball valve in the bottom. You look inside, got my false bottom there, and that's where the new project comes in. I'm going to get a close up here and show you what my false bottom looks like. Okay, there's my false bottom. If you look over to the bottom right corner of the screen, you can see I've got copper pipe that goes into a threaded fitting on the inside of my ball valve. Goes to the center of this pan that's in the middle. That is actually a pizza pan. It actually works fairly well. There's nothing really wrong with the way this is set up, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. Alright, well, what I'm going to do a little bit different is I'm going to replace the false bottom, the small pan, with the larger pan. Now this pan is more in line with the diameter of my pot here. And in fact, let me take out the old pan and I'll show you the difference in size. This will take just a second here, hopefully. Now it's screwed in, and it takes a second to move it. Alright, here's what I got now for the false bottom. It's again, threaded end, copper pipe, an end that goes into a 90-degree fitting, and then on the bottom, cut a hole in the bottom, and another fitting that goes inside there. I've got this held together with thumb screw hose clamp. Anyway, works pretty good. Nothing really that wrong with it. Although I think I could get a little more efficiency out of the recirculating if I have a bigger pan with a lot more holes in it. Now, comparing the two, it adds at least another couple inches on each side. So that's what I'm doing. Bought this pan at the BigLots store. It's a steel pan. Let me take the label off here and get you a better look at that. A lot of holes there. Big enough to where they will keep the grain out, or big enough to where they'll circulate water, but small enough to keep the grain out. So that's my project. Gonna go step by step. Now, for the time being, I'm gonna get rid of my metal here, get it off the table. And concentrate on this. I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit and come down onto the table. Back it out a little bit. Wrong direction. Okay. Back it up a little bit so you can see everything. Well, the new false bottom is going to be made slightly different. Really, there's only 4 or 5 parts to it. Again, 90-degree angle. The fitting that goes inside the 90-degree angle, and that's going to squeeze in that, and that's going to squeeze the pan in place. I've got a washer on it that's going to act as a separation or a shim. For the pipe, on the other one I just used some regular 1/2-inch copper pipe and 2 fittings in the end. I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm going to use some copper coil, same kind of coil you make immersion chillers out of, flexible copper. In this case, This is 3/8 inch outside diameter copper coil. Instead of using a soldered on fitting on one end, what I've got is a couple fittings that are compression fittings. I've got, excuse me, compression fittings. I've got a male. I got a male and a female, just like I had on the other false bottom. And again, in place of this tube here, that's 1/2 inch copper pipe held on with the hose clamp and soldered on fitting in this end. I'm just going to use the compression fittings. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. Alright, the first and most complicated thing I've got to do is to drill a hole in the pie pan, the pizza pan, so that this reduction flange will go through it and clamp on the 90-degree thing. Now again, this is just a stainless steel 1/2 inch to I don't know, probably 3/8 inch reduction flange, and I am just a klutz today. So 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch threaded flange, that'll go in there and cinch it up pretty decent. Got a washer that's going to go between it, and if I need to, I will put a another washer, a silicone washer in the bottom. It really doesn't have to be super snug on this pan. It just needs to be tight so it holds it in place. Now to drill the hole, I've got some step bits, and I'm just going to get one. It's the right size for this flange, which looks like this one right here will work. Harbor Freight step bits. I think a pair of a big one and a medium sized one cost $12–13. They do have 3-piece sets they usually have on sale. Now I'm going to go a step at a time until I get the right size. And go from the other direction so I can clean up the burr a little bit. Okay. And this goes right in. Okay. Now before I get too further, I'm going to flatten that out so that it'll go in better. I'm going to run over here and get a hammer real quick. Now, once this is in, I didn't show you this, but if you look, the nut head on that is probably, I don't know, 3/16 of an inch thick. The cup on this pie pan is, I don't know, let's find out real quick. Put a board across it. You can see that's maybe 1/2 inch. So there's going to be a little bit of space underneath it. And yeah, now that I've flattened it out, it snugged it up a little bit too much. I'm going to have to drill it out some more. Alright. Grab a crescent wrench here. Bottom this out and try and ream that hole out a little bit. There we go. Now again, this doesn't have to be perfectly bottomed out. It just has to be underneath it enough so some water goes through. And let's grab my fancy measuring thing. And if you look, you should be able to see there's a good 1/8 of an inch underneath that. That'll be between that and the bottom of the pan. So, that like that. It's going to take my 90 degree, put on here. Not going to worry about any Teflon tape or anything like that. It doesn't really matter for this. Alright. That's snug. Not going anywhere. Don't even need the washer. That's right there in the bottom. So, once that's done, this out of the way. This out of the way. And let's get rid of some of my shavings here. Don't really want them all over my floor. Plenty of room now. What I need to do is make the pipe that goes between here and the outside of the pan. Now what I'm gonna do, just to make it easier on myself, is use the old one and kind of get an idea of where it needs to sit. So I'm gonna take this off here. And if I wanted, really, I could just reuse this and not make a new one. Easy enough to do, and it's perfect. It would work just fine, but I don't want to do that. So once I got this in here, now I just need to find out the distance between here and here. And take and cut a piece of copper pipe, go from here to here, fill up that gap. So, grab me a ruler, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the distance between end to end, and it looks like I got just a hair under 6 1/4 inches from end to end. So I'm going to space this out to be a hair under 6 1/4 inches. Okay, with that spaced out that far, now I just need to measure the distance between here and here. And I think I'm going to take these fittings off. Those are compression fittings. So, a little less than 6 1/4. Okay. This doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be pretty dang close. So now I need to measure the distance from there to there. And it fits in the fitting. Here, let's flip this over. About 1/4 of an inch. So back to 6 1/4. Okay. So take 1/4 in on one end and 1/4 in on the other end from there. And I got 4 5/8 inches, so a little over 4 1/2 inches. So I'm going to take my piece of pipe here and grab a marker Measure this a little over 4 5/8 inches. That fits me right there. So, got a mark on there. Take my tubing cutter. Line it up. You know, if you know how to use a tubing cutter, but just twirl it around, twist the knob in, quarter turn each time. There's my tube. So now it's just a matter of putting the compression rings on. I don't know if you ever use compression fittings. You put the nut on the tube, put the little compression ring on the tube. You can see it there. Put it in the pipe or in the fitting, and what happens is when you tighten the nut down, it compresses that fitting against the flexible copper pipe and makes a nice seal. Do the same thing on this end. Now, for the sake of making sure that I'm in good shape, I'm going to go ahead and pull my other one down here. Verify the length is right there. And actually it looks like I'm a hair long. So I need to take about a 1/4 inch off. So it's a good thing I checked. Back to my cutter. I'm going to just eyeball about a 1/4 inch. Again, this is not rocket science. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just have to be in the ballpark. And that's what it'll work. Okay. Same story. Set it in, push it down. Okay. Just about perfect. Again, just has to be close. There's enough play in the bottom of the kettle. So now I need to just tighten these down. I'm going to pick up my crescent wrench again. And another crescent wrench. Where did I put it? Okay. Now, on this old one, what I've got is a hose clamp to hold it in place, and I cut a slot down the female fitting there so that it would snug it up with the hose clamp. This, I can just take the compression fitting off each time, and I'm just going to tighten this up real good. That one. Do the same thing on the other side. Bear with me, I'm kind of a klutz tonight. And I'm just going to tighten it up again. And again, this is going to compress that ring around that soft copper pipe. And with any luck, we'll have a nice clean fitting. Okay, so there you have it. Again, essentially the same thing, only now it's compression instead of soldered. Now, the inside diameter of this is a little less, but that doesn't really matter a whole lot because I'm still going to be pumping more than I need to. So, now I just screw this on here. Now, what I'm going to do though is when I've got it in the pan, I might as well go ahead and try it out. Okay, so when it's in the pan, it's going to push this thing down and keep it on the bottom. The grain will keep it on the bottom. It's going to have plenty of... Okay, when it's in the pan, it's going to be just fine. It's a little bit of a disjointed video here, but let's see what it's like. Let's bring the pan over here. Bring the camera over and take a look inside. Here we go. Turn this to the side so we can see it. Okay. So, this thing goes in like this, goes into there. And that's how it's going to fit. Now what I'm going to do is loosen this end up. And I'm just going to go ahead and take this thing off. I'm going to take this off of here. Okay, now that I've got this in here, I've got this part, I'm going to take this apart, take it apart, and you see that compression ring on there, holding that in place. I'm going to go ahead and screw this in here, make it hand snug. This does not have to be perfect. It's going to still take all the board out. I'm going to put this one on here. Nice and hand snug. Put the pipe in there. Take this compression thing, thread it, and since it's dry, I'll just take this and snug this one up here. Come on, tighten up. A little snug there. Take a little nut, snug it up, and we're good to go. So, there you have it. Nice, new, false bottom. So on the bottom here, I push down in here. Again, I get that 1/8 of an inch of space. Be just fine. It'll suck plenty of wart up. It'll recirculate fine, won't overpower it. Should work pretty well. Cost of this, I think I paid $4 for the Easy Baker Pizza Crisper pan. Each of these fittings probably cost $2.50 a piece, give or take 25 cents. So for about $10, and well, the copper pipe I had, that probably 20 cents worth of copper pipe off of the roll. Anyway, not a very expensive way to get yourself a false bottom. That'll work pretty decent. You don't have to screw around with a whole lot. Barring the problems I had getting things together and getting everything ready, probably took a grand total of maybe 15 minutes to make it. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I did making it. Again, it's pretty reasonable cost. Didn't spend much more than 15 minutes of time and maybe $10-11 worth of cost. Got a nice false bottom. As I showed you in the other one, this did work pretty good for me. I had no problems with it. It's a pizza pan. It's also made out of heavy duty baking steel. It worked pretty good for me. I'm going to hang on to it. I might need it in another kettle. I got some other kettles that are similar in size to the diameter of this, so it might work pretty good for that. If I need some extra throughput wart-wise, I can always transfer this over to the other one and use it, but I don't think I need to. This works pretty good as it is, and I actually have an Igloo cooler mash tun that has the same kind of false bottom and connector hose or pipe as that one has, so it will work, I'm confident. So anyway, I hope you brew some good beer, and send me any comments and questions. Be happy to answer them. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Cheers.